It was a day filled with hatred and evil. 1 year ago today, 17 people were killed in a hail of gunfire at Stoneman Douglas High School.
There is a school shooting. This is a live scene, and what we are hearing is that multiple students have been shot.
It is the deadliest high school shooting in U.S. history.
It was supposed to be a special day. It was Valentine's Day. It was a day of love.
Students forced to become activists as the tragedy sparked marches in Parkland, Tallahassee, Washington, D.C., and even here in Jacksonville.
No one could comprehend the devastating aftermath or how far this would reach or where this would go.
Today, they continue to push for what they're calling meaningful gun reform.
We have to end gun violence in every zip code, in every single part of the United States.
New laws on school safety, mental health issues, and gun reform have been passed, and some have even lost their jobs. But 1 year later, parents and students still have unanswered questions.
I can't rest until I get accountability for my daughter, and there's still some more things that need to be done.
The governor hoping a grand jury investigation will provide answers. This morning, we're looking at 4 ways Florida has changed since the tragedy, and the steps some say still need to be taken.
Live from the local station, the morning show starts now.
This is one of those days, years from now, you'll go, I remember where I was. 1 year ago today, 17 people were gunned down inside their Broward County school. This morning, we remember those who lost their lives. Good morning. The mass shooting in Parkland has changed the way we talk about school safety, the way we talk about gun control, the way we talk about mental health treatment.
In just a few hours at 10:17 a.m., there will be a statewide moment of silence to honor the memory of each one of those who was killed. And this is a live look now at Duval County School District headquarters, where, as you can see, the flag is flying at half-staff this morning. Flags throughout the state will remain that way until sunset. This morning, News4Jax reporter Ashley Harding spoke to a Stoneman Douglas graduate. Melanie is looking at what some students are still doing right now to push for change.
But first, we turn to Sarah Anwar, live outside Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in South Florida.
Bruce and Jen, right now we're seeing the very first school buses and student drop-offs here at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. This will undoubtedly be a very difficult day for these students. We're actually seeing fewer than typical here today, and that's because the school leadership said that, you know, students, they're not going to get in trouble if they decide not to come to school today. Many students instead are staying home or using today as a day of service, healing, and spreading love.
Sarah, can you tell us a little bit more about what's planned? I mean, obviously, I would imagine the students aren't going to be expected to, you know, learn math and science and English today. This is obviously a day that is about remembering.
That's right, and today will be dedicated to a lot of service projects. The students will actually be serving breakfast to first responders as a way of saying thank you for all they've done for the past year. And also at noon at a local park here, they'll be hosting a commemoration event and an interfaith prayer service. They will also have service dogs and grief counselors on hand for those families and everyone who's just been so resilient through this healing process here in Parkland.
And Sarah, can you tell us a little bit more about Parkland itself today, what the mood is like there? Obviously, it is very somber, but these are kids who have to go to this school, you know, every day, and it's very difficult.
That's right, and the mood is very somber, but they want to focus more on healing and moving forward. Let me show you what we're seeing all over the school today. These red stones are all over the school's campus. This says MSD Strong, Spread Love. And that is just so symbolic of the mood here today. They are about spreading love and healing and moving forward, and not just you know, moving past the grieving process and continuing on with their lives after this nightmare and after this tragedy that happened here 1 year ago.
Sarah Anwar joining us live from outside Stoneman Douglas High School. Thank you. This morning, we are hearing personal stories also from those impacted by this tragedy, including a graduate of the high school who now lives here in our area.
News4Jax reporter Ashley Harding explains how the young woman is paying tribute.
Graduated from the high school in 1995, and she is now the founder and editor-in-chief of Flamingo magazine. Now, her magazine is putting out a special 1 year later article. It's about honoring those who died, but also highlighting the efforts that are being made for change. When word of the mass shooting at Stoneman Douglas High School began to spread, the reaction nationwide was shock and devastation. Sitting in her office nearly 5 hours away in Ponte Vedra Beach, Jamie Rich got the news she never imagined.
We immediately turned on the news and just started watching the broadcast like everyone else. It's one of those moments where you remember where you were.
Having graduated from Douglas High School, this tragedy hit home for Rich. As we saw in the days and weeks after the shooting, students began lobbying for change. For some, their work inspired generations, present and past.
I think I look back at my days at Stoneman Douglas and the friends I had and the times we had and the things we did, and I can't imagine taking on this type of issue, taking on this type of responsibility.
For Rich, that responsibility meant getting involved as well. She took part in the March for Our Lives demonstration here in Jacksonville. And knowing the healing that can come with writing, she urged people to send their essays into her magazine as a Power of the Pen campaign. This one's from a teacher.
She has to now decide, how many kids can she fit inside of her closet?
Rich's magazine shared a 1 year anniversary story that is available now on the website. It includes interviews with survivors of the shooting. While there have been some changes in Florida, Rich's hope is for the conversation to keep going.
I just hope to continue to be inspired and hope that other people will too, and that the issue won't disappear and be forgotten again until the next school shooting.
And the 1 year later article will be available in the next print issue, which is coming out next month. You can see it online. Just head to our website, newsforjax.com. I'm Ashley Harding, Channel 4, the local station.
No doubt the Parkland tragedy led to sweeping changes in school safety here in Florida and around the nation. Armed guardians are now required at every public school in the state.
The red flag law allows law enforcement to seize weapons from people with mental health issues as well. Florida also increased the age to buy a rifle from 18 to 21. The accused Parkland gunman was just 19 when he legally bought an AR-15.
And Mel joins us now, and a lot of these changes were spearheaded by Stoneman Douglas students who continue to push for gun reform and do so on a national level.
Courageous students, and so outspoken and eloquently speaking as well. Students like Cameron Caskey, Emma Gonzalez, David Hogue started speaking out about a pattern of political inaction, they called it, that seems to follow mass shootings in the U.S. in the days since this shooting happened. They spoke at rallies in Parkland, Tallahassee, here in Washington, D.C., in what they called a nationwide March for Our Lives. Each time, these students called on lawmakers to pass stricter gun laws.
No one could comprehend the devastating aftermath or how far this would reach or where this would go. For those who still can't comprehend because they refuse to, I'll tell you where it went. Right into the ground, 6 feet deep.
To the leaders, skeptics, and cynics who told us to sit down and stay silent, wait your turn. Welcome to the revolution.
I say we will not stop until every man, every woman, every child, and every American can live without fear of gun violence, and to that I say, no more.
Now, all of these students and others around the country continue to put pressure on lawmakers to pass meaningful gun reform. Just yesterday, Hogue spoke with CNN about his continued efforts.
I plan to make sure that nobody else, no matter the zip code, has to live in constant fear of gun violence. And I plan to make sure that our generation is the last generation that has to live with the constant scourge of gun violence, no matter whether it's 17 people that are killed at our high school or one person that's shot and killed on their way to school, because we have to end gun violence in every zip code, in every single part of the United States.
It's a wonderful dream and idea. Now, Hogue is one of the Parkland students sharing this website on social media. It shows that in the 12 months since Parkland, 1,200 American children have been shot and killed. Student journalists partnered with the Miami Herald, the Trace, and McClatchy Publishing Company to measure the void left in homes, in classrooms, all because of gun violence. Now, the website includes stories of all the children killed, including those from our area. We have 3. 16-year-old Xavier Davis, who was shot outside of a Bay Meadows apartment complex last month. 18-year-old Trayvon Bullard, who was killed in a drive-by shooting on Town Center Parkway. And you have Heidi Rivas Villanueva, the 7-year-old, caught in the crossfire of a botched West Side robbery last August. Now, while students have taken the lead in the push for gun reform, adults who were in position to keep them safe on that day are being held accountable for their lack of action. Scott Peterson was the Stoneman Douglas School Resource Officer the day of that shooting. Surveillance video showed him standing outside of the building where those gunshots were fired. At first, he said he thought the sound was firecrackers, but a commission determined that he lied, and Peterson ultimately resigned. And then you also have Sheriff Scott Israel. His actions a disgrace, saying that he should have rushed in to help students. But Israel faced backlash for not requiring deputies in the first place to confront active shooters. He said he didn't want them charging in to suicide missions, he called it. So Governor Ron DeSantis suspended Israel last month, accusing him of incompetence. Israel has requested a hearing before the state Senate to decide his fate. Bruce?
Now, Governor DeSantis is also calling for a grand jury to take a closer look at how Broward County schools handled the shooting. He believes the tragedy was preventable and wants an investigation into how the school district handled student safety and security issues.
This is something that is very serious, and I think that it's something that we're gonna look at and evaluate who they're holding accountable.
We've been fighting for justice for our murdered loved ones, and this is just the beginning.
Grand jury would look into 4 things specifically: if a failure to follow school-related safety laws resulted in unnecessary and avoidable risk to students, if public entities committed fraud by accepting state funds for safety measures without enacting them, if school officials mismanaged school safety funds, and if school officials violated state law by underreporting criminal activity to the Florida Department of Education.
That grand jury probe is just one example of the continued efforts to bring parents and students answers. The shooting happened in the afternoon, about a half hour before the roughly 3,500 students at the school were supposed to leave for the day. The first gunshots were fired inside building 1200 at 2:22 p.m. One student immediately ran from that building, found assistant football coach Aaron Feist. Feist ran toward the gunshots and died shielding students from bullets. 2 minutes after the first shots were fired, students inside the school, of course, began calling 911, describing the terrifying scene.
Hello, where are you? Stoneman Douglas High School. Please, what's going on? Who? Please, he's shooting at us, please. Please, I'm begging you, please. Please, 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 please. Please, please, please.
I have help already on the way.
Please, please.
I have help on the way, ma'am. Just stay on the phone. They do not hang up the phone.
Please. Oh, we're in the freshman building, please.
Help is on the way. Please don't hang up with me.
I won't hang up. I won't hang up, I promise.
Did you see the shooter?
No, but there's holes in the wall and.
Are you injured?
No, but there's a lot of people around us that are injured. People are bleeding. Please, he's upstairs now. He's upstairs.
That is incredibly difficult to listen to. 8 minutes after the first 911 call, Coral Springs police officers arrived at the school. They were later joined by Broward County deputies, The accused gunman, Nicholas Cruz, escaped because surveillance video that the officers and deputies were watching was delayed. He was arrested on a nearby street 79 minutes after the first bullet was fired. Cruz is accused of killing 17 people and injuring 17 others. His defense team has offered a guilty plea in exchange for life in prison without the possibility of parole. Prosecutors rejected it, saying they will seek the death penalty, which means it could be years, Bruce, before the trial begins.
Now, communications problems plagued first responders trying to save students in Parkland. System was overwhelmed with calls, and some first responders then had a tough time connecting. This prevented dispatchers from passing along vital information from witnesses about the gunman's location. 1 year later, it has not been replaced. A new $80 million system will be put in place, but not until the end of the year. Changes have been made at local schools 1 year after the tragedy. The Duval County School District is investing in metal detectors for high schools. It has expanded the mental health resources available to students.
All St. Johns County schools now have a single point of entry, and in Clay County, the district plans to create its own police department. The sheriff's office, though, has since criticized that plan, arguing the district will struggle with hiring and training 40 officers by next fall. We will have more on extra precautions being taken today, by the way, to deter copycat threats coming up at 8 o'clock.
Also at 8, Vic Michelucci will be live from Parkland as students prepare to serve breakfast to first responders. We'll check back in with another crew in Parkland at 7:30 as students continue to arrive at the school. Let me ask you to come back on camera for just a second before we go to weather. Come back on camera, too. Lest you think it's easy for us to sit here all morning and talk about this. Jen has kids, Mel has kids, I have kids, and I do remember when this story hit. And I worry about the safety of our children, Jen's children. And we hear these stories. You heard Jen get very emotional when she heard that 911 call. Every time we sit here and we talk about the students or the teachers who put themselves in danger to try and save those students, don't think that it doesn't hurt our hearts. Don't think that we don't want to cry. If sometimes we seem to be somewhat stoic and somewhat emotionless in the reporting, don't let it fool you. It affects us just as much as you. It's 7:16.
Our 5 powerful radar sweeps track and alert when severe weather threatens your neighborhood. Hours before the storm hits. Channel 4 is the weather authority.
Into the forecast we go as we continue with the frost advisory. About another 44 minutes here, and that will expire. It's an 8 o'clock time for that to move away. Our temperatures bottomed out at 30, I think it was 36. I'll double check the digits. May have gotten down to 35. We wanted 38, but we found a little dry air slot that opened up the dew point spread, and our temperatures responded. But how about that for a view? The sun peeking out behind that cloud bank out there. I'll step out of the way so you can click a pic, and that way you can show your friends up north. Hey, it gets cold here for a couple of hours through 8 o'clock, and then sunny and warm conditions will pick up after that as our daytime highs on this Valentine's Day will reach the upper 60s to lower 70s inland and 60s widespread beaches. 38 degrees for those kids making the walk. We're sitting at 37 right now, but when you factor in temperatures like at Cecil down to the freeze point here, 38 at Arlington. NAS Jack still showing 50, and we also found 50. Where was the other one there at Doctors Lake? And we've got 40s and 50s, even some upper 30s as you move out toward Fernandina. Waycross, Nahunta, Kingsland. Waycross is warmed up, 36. 34 continues, 1, 2, 3 of those over to Brunswick. Could be scraping some ice, especially in the inland areas off your car or your windshields here, as even the radar was showing all the clutter showing up. It is kind of damp outside, and with temperatures dropping and metal, glass, things like that drop faster temperature-wise, so that's why we would say your windshields may have some of the ice, and even your rooftops in houses may see some of that. 38 degrees will make a rapid warm-up. How about 56 degrees by 10 o'clock? 65 will warm to 69, and that is your daytime high. And I think this is the best of the fly-through so far, at least with the sky cover, as others have tried to drag in some cloud cover. Temperatures inland, I was kind of hoping the 7 o'clock update would bump McClenny into the 70s. These will be widespread from the river continuing through Putnam, Clay County, Union, Bradford, all the way over to Alachua and Columbia County. Now here with that onshore flow, we could see some temperatures closer to the upper 60s. Callahan did bump up with the update, mid to upper 60s beachside, and it's low 70s. As you move inland and into southeast Georgia, your temperatures, and Homerville moved up with the update. Valdosta stayed at 68 degrees. I'm thinking still widespread 70s. And then it's our coastal zones under the same idea here, that onshore flow, where we'll find temperatures in the 60s. Adding to the list, now there's oak out there. So you got alder, elm, juniper, and oak. The leafy trees are trying to make you sneeze. 7.3 on the sniffle and sneeze dust for today. The winter blue skies are back as we'll top out with daytime highs in the upper 60s to those lower 70s. That comes in at 3 o'clock, and we'll watch our temperatures make that slide down to the lower 60s. 45 as we get ready to start our finally Friday. Above normal temperatures continue right on into the afternoon. How about that? 76 degrees, even some temperatures closer to the 80s as you move inland. Saturday, we're a little cooler here, 75 degrees. We'll stay right around those mid to upper 70s through the weekend. Late Sunday, we'll start to see the clouds closing in, and with that, will be the chance for some showers. That continues right on into the start of the work week there Monday, and a 50-50 shot on Tuesday. 107.3 The River, your forecast right there on the FM dial every hour. 20 minutes after the hour, let's check with Crystal on that time saver traffic.
Now, here's Safe Touch Security Time Saver Traffic.
On this Valentine's Day, there is no love out there on the roadways. Quite a mess. Several crashes going on. The first one near the Springfield area. It's a crash along I-95 southbound at 8th Street. 2 left lanes are blocked right now. JFRD, FHP, as well as the road rangers on scene trying to get traffic moving in that right lane. So just make sure you're careful as you're traveling southbound. It's going to take some time to get this crash cleared. Several vehicles involved in this one. So I'll let you know as soon as they reopen all of those lanes. As far as traffic goes, you can expect delays all the way from the Trout River down towards 8th Street. So right after you get off the Trout River Bridge, you're moving at 9 miles per hour, moving closer to MLK Parkway, you're down to just 4 miles an hour. So if you want to avoid those delays, the stop and go traffic, just head east. You'll want to hop onto North Main Street. Matter of fact, you could do it from the north side. Maybe if you're traveling as you get onto Zoo Parkway, Heckscher Drive, you'll want to get off on that exit along I-95, head east, and then take that next street, which is Main Street, to head southbound, and then you can get back onto I-95 after that 8th Street crash. Your drive times as you're traveling south from 295 on the north side down to I-10, 40 minutes along I-95, and that's just compared to a 16-minute ride along North Main Street, so that's definitely your better bet. Now, if you're traveling, this one is on the East Beltway. There's another crash, 295. This one southbound at Butler Boulevard. There's 2 separate crashes, matter of fact. One was blocking the left lane. The other one was on the right shoulder. FHP quickly got those vehicles off to the right shoulder, but traffic is still backed up for several miles. If you're traveling southbound, and this is near the Sandalwood area, Atlantic Boulevard, you're moving at 14 miles per hour. Once you get closer to Beach Boulevard, you're at 25 miles per hour, and then things start to spread out as you're heading towards that Butler Boulevard crash because those cars are off to the side. So again, you'll want to allow plenty of time. Head out the door early, and we'll keep you updated with your next Safe Touch Security Time Saver Traffic. Bruce, Jen.
Flight attendants thrown in the air. Passengers describe terrifying turbulence mid-flight.
Just how many people were hurt? Look at that video. That's ahead. But first, we are following a breaking news alert out of Clay County. 1 person killed in a mobile home fire overnight.
What we've learned about the investigation next.
And we're remembering the 17 people killed in Parkland throughout the morning show. Chris Hickson, the school's athletic director and wrestling coach, was killed when he tried to stop the shooter. His wife says he would do anything for the students he loved. He would often give them rides or lunch money if they ever needed it. Hickson was also a naval reservist who served in Iraq in 2007.